Happy Monday, happy draft week, everybody. Well, welcome into Mavericks today. Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein with you. Couple of topics we want to hit here. Could the Mavericks trade for Jerami Grant? I think Coop and I are going to have a pretty healthy debate on that one. Plus, sign Landry Shamet. A report out there that the Mavericks could be interested. So we'll hit on both of these topics here today. And Coop, let's get into this Grant thing first. And I do want to mention right off the top that Ian Begley reported that the Mavericks have checked in on Grant. Now, what does that mean? Nico Harrison called and asked for an asking price. Who knows? But you and I are on different ends of the spectrum in terms of whether or not Jerami Grant could be the missing piece and the ideal fit for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to preface another thing you said. Teams have exploratory talks with everybody this
all the
time of year. But I do think it's of note that the Mavs have checked in on Grant again because they have done it multiple times in the past. We'll start with the stats here. He had a very good season in Portland after signing that big deal. 21 points a game, 3.5 boards, 40% from three the last 2 years. What alarmed me, and I didn't even know this about him when looking at his stats, doesn't look like he's played a whole lot of games recently. It looks like he's had an injury problem.
That would be my biggest drawback. And just to kind of tease it, and we'll go through it, I'm in the camp of if the trade makes sense. Like if you're not giving up a key starter or something like that, I think I would take the swing. Coop would not. And I think your biggest reason for not is what we're about to mention here, and that is the financials of the Jerami Grant contract.
Yeah, the financials of this deal are just absolutely wild, and we'll take a look at it here. He is owed 4 years and $132.4 million over the next 4 years, that last year being a player option, which I would assume he's going to pick up at this point. He is about to be 30 years old, so, if you're giving a 30-year-old this kind of deal, this is where my big hesitation comes in.
Look, we can just get into it here then. I fully acknowledge this is not a risk-free move. He's got 4 years left. Kyrie and Luka have 2. Now Luka's about to sign a crazy max next summer, barring something unforeseen. So I'm not that concerned about that. But, yeah, would it be more ideal if his contract was only 2 years left, even if it was a little more money? Yes. At the same time, because we talked about this last, these rumors were starting shortly after he signed in Portland. It was kind of weird. And then certainly at the trade deadline. And we both, and me and Clue, were like, this contract sucks. Bad idea. You don't do this when you're not, close enough. And I think that's where I've shifted, Coop. I feel like, and this is just my opinion, if the Mavs kind of just go status quo, run it back, re-sign Derek Jones, and add a 9th or 10th member of the rotation, and it's the same team, I am not that confident this team can get back to the finals. Now,
I do agree with that.
Could it happen? Yes, but the West is only getting tougher. I think you have to thread that needle of you don't want to happen. You don't want to happen what happened after 2011, where you had a ton of shakeup. But I don't think you should rest on your laurels either, where you're just let's Nico's comments of we like our top 7-8 guys. We just all need to get 10 to 15% better. How realistic is that? Derek Lively, gonna get better. A guy like Jaden Hardy, but he's not even probably top 7 or 8, he should get better. Is Kyrie getting 10 to 15% better at 32 years old? Is even Luka getting 10 to 15% better? He should get a little bit better.
10 to 15 is a lot.
Is Josh Green, is Maxi Kleber, a lot? If anything, some of these guys would regress. Derek Jones, what's more likely? He gets 10 to 15% better, or he takes a step back? Probably takes a step back. So my point in all this is yes, Grant might not have the most ideal contract of all time, but he's gettable. And I think if you plug this guy in your team without giving up a key piece, the next 2 years, you feel pretty good about your chances in a tough Western Conference.
A couple of things. One, I completely agree that I think staying stagnant is probably not the move because you've seen that even if you have a really good team, it's impossible to replicate success pretty much. So you need to improve even if you won the championship. You still need to find ways to improve your team. So I do agree with that. Number two, and I don't believe Nico Harrison's comments, plain and simple. When he says we love the top 7 or 8 we have on this team, I forget who said this, but there was a GM that said if my lips are moving at this time of year, I'm probably lying.
Yeah,
I think that's where it is. I don't believe the Mavs are going to completely run it back. I just don't think Jerami Grant is the answer. And here's my main problem. It's not even the player himself, who I actually do think is a good player, and the Mavs have had interest in him dating back to the last administration with Donnie Nelson and Mark Cuban running things. I don't know if his mentality is there. I'm not sure if he's the right guy to put around this team in order to get back to the finals and maybe even win a championship. I think and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. I think he chose the bag over trying to go to a contender in free agency, and I do think that kind of speaks volumes to where his head is at. And do the Mavs want a guy like that on the team? I'm not sure.
There's some Bradley Beal vibes, like where Beal was like, I'll just stay in Washington and
get paid a shit ton of money and
be a number one option. And I get that. Like, you'd have to do your research here. There's no doubt. But I also look at P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford, two guys who never were on competitive teams. Come in here, Washington, all of a sudden he's a good defender, so it kind of goes to show it was probably just an effort situation. Yeah. And Gafford was a key piece. So I think it can go both ways. And my kind of point of this too, Coop, is like, if you can get Jerami Grant, and this is the trade you put together, Hardaway, Kleber, and draft, I think you can even do it without giving up Kleber. I think you could go Hardaway, Josh Green, Dwight Powell maybe gets thrown in, and say 2 second-round picks. Would I give up a first to do it? No. But, like, if you're Portland, it's like, what leverage do you really have? You stink and this contract sucks. Yeah. Like, take it or leave it. Again, I'm not throwing, like Green is, like, the only rotation piece or Kleber that I would but I'd rather keep Kleber, actually, in that situation. And then you go from there. So
one thing we do know is Tim Hardaway will be involved in any trade the Mavericks make, according to Mr. Senior as well.
And that's kind of my thing, too. Like, let's say it's a Hardaway, Josh Green, Dwight Powell, and 2 second-round picks. To me, yes, the money obviously plays a role for looking forward down the road. You're kind of trading, to me, Josh Green for Jerami Grant in terms of who's going to play in your rotation. That's kind of a no-brainer to me.
Now, I can see that.
It's short-term versus long-term. I'm kind of thinking about the next 2 years with Kyrie these next 2 years.
You're thinking more in the short-term immediate, like you have this window trying to maximize it. I get that. I definitely get that. Type T for trade, type P for pass. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments. I think it's going to be a pretty split opinion on this one, so let us know what you guys think.
One last note, by the way, before we get to the next thing. I don't want to overreact to one series. It's one series. This team shot 17% in the finals on wide open threes.
They did.
I like Derek Jones. I like P.J. Washington. And by the way, they could both still be here if you get Jerami Grant, by the way. That is still doable. But Jones is airballing open threes in the finals. Is Jerami Grant shooting 12% from three in the finals? I doubt it.
I don't know if you get there with Jerami Grant's defense as opposed to Derek Jones' defense.
He'd have to get back to being the defender he was a few years ago.
Which was a very good defense.
That's the thing. Since he got money, he kind of hasn't done that. But again, I kind of look at P.J. Washington. When you're on a 21 team, are you going to bust your ass defensively? Probably not.
Yeah.
You come here and you get sold on you're the number 3 offensive piece, but we need you to play defense. I don't know, man. Like, if you could convince him to do that, again, it's risky. There's some injury concerns, but if he's an 18 to 20-point guy and starts playing defense and just more importantly is hitting open threes, that's a huge role on this team with the way you're built right now with your pick-and-roll game.
Look, whatever happens with Jerami Grant or anything else during the 2024 NBA offseason, we will have you covered, so please be sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll be covering free agency and the draft all throughout the next couple of weeks or so, the latest news, rumors, and analysis. We did some live watch parties during the postseason, including the NBA Finals. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We'll be here for the rest of time.
I think I convinced Coop.
We'll see.
Look,
we'll see.
There's certainly better moves out there, or like there are moves out there I would rather do, but what is that move? Like, I guess that is where I would kind of jump to. Like, we get to this next one, like sign Landry Shamet, which I would like. That you're talking about two different things, right? You're talking about
different ballgame.
This can be your Hardaway replacement, right? Like, that's kind of what you're looking at here. Slightly different type of player, a guy who's going to give you more defense. Didn't shoot the ball that great from three last year, but I think he could be a mid-high 30s guy playing for this team. If he's your number 9, number 10 guy in the rotation, I think could be a good fit. He could be kind Could you get him on the taxpayers mid-level, $5 million? I mean, is that kind of, or is it going to be more closer to the full mid-level?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of his contract status because his $11 million salary is guaranteed on June 29th, the day before free agency starts. And there was a report that if he wasn't traded by the draft, that the Wizards are going to lean towards picking this up. So if he declines that, do I expect that he makes, or he wouldn't decline it. If the Wizards decline that, do I expect that he makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $11 million? Maybe if it's a little less than that at 8. I mean, I still think that's a little too much for the Mavericks to even afford based on their tax status. So
yeah, I mean,
it's a difficult
if you're
one.
signing Shamet, you're probably not getting Derek Jones back, and it's kind of like,
and that's a no-brainer who you'd want.
Yeah, you'd rather have Derek Jones. So yeah, again, it's like if you can get him on that $5 million taxpayer mid-level, okay, like I could be in on that, but
it could be a situation where the Wizards like guarantee his deal and then the Mavs end up trading for him or something like that. Well,
I don't know.
I don't even know what you would do.
I mean, like, I know we like to, push down Maxi Kleba sometimes, but like I'd probably rather keep Kleba, right?
Yeah,
like
probably.
Kleba, Shamet, 1-for-1 swap. I'd probably keep Maxi because he's got playoff experience, and at minimum, if he's healthy, he's gonna give you pretty good defense. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know if you did like a Dwight Powell plus something else, maybe, but I don't even know what that contract is to add
That's
up
what
to
I'm saying.
Shamet's $11 million. So
The options are limited there. If he's available in free agency and wants to play on the taxpayer mid-level,
yeah, if the market dries out, yeah, let's do it.
Mavs should absolutely have interest. But as far as just a straight-up signing him goes, I think I'm a little hesitant just given the financials involved at that level.
And I kind of feel like his peak role has kind of come and gone at this point. Like,
Agreed.
I think for a playoff team, he's like a last guy in the rotation or just out of the rotation. So what is that? Again, like he's probably your Hardaway replacement, which in a vacuum sounds good. Hey, come be our 10th player, but what does it cost? How do you acquire him? That's really what it would come down to. Should the Mavs sign him? Type Y free SN for no. If the price is right, we're in, but certainly not going to like sacrifice Derek Jones to do it. All right, NBA draft starts on Wednesday night. The Mavs don't have a pick that night, but, trades can happen. They can be involved. We'll be live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. Myself, Nick Roloff will be hosting that. So if you want to watch us break down every pick, come over there, youtube.com/chatsportstv.
I don't anticipate the Mavs picking in the first round, but who knows?
Maybe they're involved in a trade. Could be a third team in a trade. Who knows? We'll have every Mavs move covered as well. We'll have some kind of content that night leading into round 2. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, we've got Mavs draft hats available. Get yourself one today, chatsports.com/Mavs draft. Got the flat bills, the curves, snapbacks fitted, whatever your style is. Chatsports.com/Mavs draft. Go check that out. And tomorrow, we will take an updated look at some players with that 58th pick. Coop put a video out at some initial targets over the weekend, so go check that out. We'll two-man it tomorrow with an updated look, take a look at some different players as we get ready for Wednesday and for the Mavericks, more importantly, Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, just some final thoughts here. I think Nico Harrison is in an interesting spot simply just because you made it to the NBA Finals here for the third time in franchise history. But like you said, it was I wouldn't call it a Cinderella run, but you didn't expect to be there.
You overachieved.
You overachieved, absolutely. And I think staying stagnant is probably a move that you would come to regret in the next couple of seasons because it just never works. If Nico is telling the truth and he expects everyone on this team to get 10 to 15% better, I think that's kind of a fool's errand. So you do have to make some sort of move to try to improve this team. I think within the top 3 to 5 players, Luka and Kyrie are obviously your number 1 and number 2. And then your 3 to 5, I think you do have to improve there. And is Jerami Grant a guy that would improve you there? Yes. Are there some other guys out there, LeBron, Klay Thompson, that could help you out in that area? Yeah. I just think it's a really difficult task ahead for Nico Harrison, and I'm very curious to see where he goes.
Yeah, and look, another option in all this is you kind of run it back and then you're active at the trade deadline, kind of like this past year. So, look, I think Nico deserves the benefit of the doubt at this point. He's made some really good moves. You don't want, again, it's about threading that needle. You don't want to overcompensate. Don't get reckless and, trade Gafford and Washington or something like that. I absolutely think they should both be here unless Kevin Durant becomes available, that changes things.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
You know,
and he might be. Who knows?
Like, I'm not putting P.J. Washington in a Jerami Grant trade. I'm simply saying if, like, Josh Green or Maxi Kleber is your only true rotation player you lose for Grant, I think that's a swing I'd probably take, even though the contract is obviously not ideal. So I think it's going to be interesting 72 hours here this week. Obviously, free agency starts Sunday. I mean, it's go time. So
this week is crazy. You have round 1 and 2 on Wednesday and Thursday, and then you have free agency on Sunday. So it's all compact, and this is why we love the NBA offseason, man.
Should be a lot of fun. Again, we'll be back tomorrow with some more draft targets, so take a look at that. We'll see you guys then. Peace.
See ya.